Now, anti-Brexit campaigner Gina Miller is ready to take the UK government to court again. That's if Boris Johnson tries to suspend Parliament to force through a no-deal Brexit. She's citing concern about upholding Britain's constitution. Still with us is Jordan Rochester of Nomura and David Riley of BlueBay. Jordan, you're bullish on sterling short-term, particularly against the euro. Why?
So we were actually the opposite. We were bearish just until last week, and that position worked quite well. The dollar, though, kind of started to be a bit softer, so we were short the pound versus the dollar. And then I look at the pound versus the euro. It's now at historical lows, the pound, that is. So this is what we call the value zone. So when you're at historical lows that are only matched by the 1992 ERM crash and the 2007-2008 global financial crisis, sterling's pretty cheap right now. So you will start to see long-term investors or FDI flows start to say this is a good level to start buying a bit of sterling back. Now, short-term, next week's historical. We've got a new Prime Minister. It could be Jeremy Hunt, most likely going to be Boris Johnson. Therefore, we'll have a new cabinet with a new Chancellor. That Chancellor, that cabinet, will be raising the risk of a no-deal Brexit. But we already know that. The market's got that priced in to a certain extent, 30% probability. But they will be talking about fiscal spending. They'll be talking about tax reform, even stamp duty cuts for housing. And that's quite a positive. And I looked back on what Theresa May did. And when she came into number 10, she only referenced the referendum once in her maiden speech as the Prime Minister. So I think Boris might do the same. He'll mention Brexit. It's kind of hard to avoid. But he'll want to talk about more positive things. So I think there'll be some chances of value buying in sterling and a little bit of sterling strength on the back of that fiscal spending pledges that's being made and also those reforms. But then when we get to September, complete different ballgame. When Parliament comes back, we'll see the risks of no deal go up and down and the pound will follow that and volatility will rise with it.
Does any of this, David, convince you to maybe be tactically long sterling, even if long-term you're bearish?
No. All due respect to John, I mean, you know, perfectly reasonable position. But from my perspective as an investor, you know, and the way that we're positioning our portfolios, I don't like sterling assets, don't like sterling, don't really like gilts or sterling credit for that matter. I think the economic outlook for the UK is pretty poor. And the reality is that the two most likely scenarios are going to be either an early general election or a no-deal Brexit. And in both of those scenarios, I think sterling is weaker. I think in an early general election, then I think potentially gilts are weaker as well.